All right, hey there guys, this is Dr. Chase from Action Potential, talking today about the reverse hyper. We just got this reverse hyper for the South office. We also have one up at the North office, and so we wanted to make a video about why is this an awesome piece of equipment and how, again, we can incorporate it into some of our accessory work to make sure that we're moving as happy and healthy as we can. Understanding where it came from gives us a little bit of a understanding of, again, the benefits that we're gonna see here. This was invented by world famous powerlifter Louie Simmons. He was trying to continue training and not just be completely sedentary after he broke his back. And so he more or less devised the prototype for this, and of course it has been built out over the years after that. Because we have this pivoting arm, as the weight comes down, it applies a distractionary force or a decompressing force to the low back. So there's no compression like a deadlift or a back squat. And so this is a way for us to get more volume into our low back without accumulating a lot of compressive forces, central nervous system fatigue, and a great way to, again, get high volume with very low risk. I'm gonna bring you in a little bit closer and show you on the anatomical model. What happens is when we get up onto the machine, there are a couple of different places that we can put our pelvis and hips to enact some activation and get some work done. So the two different ways that we can hit this, if I am targeting, let's say, my hips, my glutes, I'm gonna put my pelvis all the way up on the pad because that allows me to move my legs without much motion happening at my low back. Then the low back variation, where we have the front bony parts of our pelvis seated more at the front of the pad itself. This way, as I get my extension, my pelvis will actually lift up off of the table, and now we're actually dressing the musculature of the low back itself. So again, two ways to do this. One with our hips in front of the pad, where we're gonna get low back extension, and the other where our hips are up on this upper rim, and we're getting just those legs to move. So in loading the machine up, because we have this central pivoting arm that attaches on both sides, we can actually asymmetrically load this and be totally fine. So I got a 25 here, and let's say I have no more 25s. I can still take a different weight, 35 in this case, put it on. Always going to throw on my clips, but as I go through now and we get that motion, even though it is asymmetrically loaded, we're still gonna get a nice smooth rhythm the entire time. That allows for us to be able to get to a specific weight a little bit easier instead of trying to do the mental math and use penny plates and smaller things like that. Again, we can load this up with different plates, different weights, and be totally fine. Of course, we wanna use some common sense. Don't load everything on one side, leaving one side empty. Another piece that is just a little bit of a pro tip, with the clips themselves, make sure that these are pointed either down or forward. When we have them pointing back towards us, as that rep comes up, the likelihood of my leg getting poked by those is a little bit high, and nobody likes that. So again, point them down and forward. How to get on the machine. Because this has this ankle strap down here, I'm going to hook one leg first. This will give me room and the ability with my opposite leg to step on my little foot pad here to jump up on. We already talked about the difference of my pelvis placement, whether or not I want to be hitting my low back with my pelvis more towards the front, or if I'm going just for some glute work, I'm gonna put my pelvis up on top. But I'll jump on up here, take my other leg, slot it through, and now I'm ready to go. Dismounting is as easy as letting the ankle strap drop and popping off. So what do I want each rep to look like? With my technique of choice, whether I'm going for isolating the glutes and hips, or if I'm going for more of a low back global extension pattern, regardless, I want to get that bar or my legs as high as possible. I'm really exploding to get there. But the real benefit that we get from this is the controlling of the weight down. So I want to explode up and I want to put on the brakes. I more or less want this bar to be stopping close to neutral with a little bit up. I don't want this flying all the way back, right? Because that'll put a really big stretch, which isn't wrong, but if I'm doing this with excessive weight for excessive reps, this might just be a lot for our back. And so there's no right or wrong, there's just sensation and making sure that we don't do too much too quick. Now we're talking about what is our upper body doing while we're rocking and rolling with this. First is gonna be hand positions gripping on the machine itself. Depending on the length of your torso, also if I need to have my hips further down versus having my pelvis on top of the pad, it may be better for you to grab onto the actual handles themselves. For me personally, I've been really liking reaching down and grabbing these front legs right here. As long as we're not grabbing anything that has a moving component to it, we should be plenty safe. I can also interlock my arms here, creating a little bit of downward pressure, activating my lats, depressing my shoulder blades down, and really rooting myself into the pad. Like all isolation machines, the more that I can create stability through the rest of my body, the more isolated activation I can get out of the muscle group that I'm looking for. Now, depending on the type of movement I'm doing, my upper body motion is going to change. For isolating the hips, I really want to make sure that my upper body is locked in. I am not moving at all because all I want to do is contract through those glutes. Versus if I'm working on building volume in the low back extension, in the global extension of my spine, I'm going to allow my chest and my head to lift up and drop down. Thinking of a big C at the top and a big C at the bottom. Getting that rounding allows us to train the global extension of the spinal column itself, right? Whatever fires wires. I want my brain to go, hey, when I want my low back to extend to stabilize for something like a deadlift or a back squat, I need to utilize my upper back musculature to create the most stability I can. As for our reps and sets, there are two camps that we can really throw in here. One is going to be strength. We're gonna utilize the weight of a back squat, or 1 rep max back squat, as the percentage. So rep range for that strength style is going to be 10 reps, anywhere from 3 to 5 sets. Stay closer to 3 to 4 as you start out, and as you become experienced with this, we can absolutely go towards that 5th set, but we want 10 reps at 50% of your 1 rep max. So if you back squat 200 pounds, you're putting 100 pounds on the down arm. The other way is gonna be utilizing this for high volume recovery work. Think of this as getting a really good pump into the low back itself. We're really driving blood flow to support the muscular growth, but also the tendons, ligaments, everything that exists in your low back. That is gonna be 1 to 2 sets of 25 at 25% of your 1 rep max. Outside of all of that, the reverse hyper has been an awesome piece of equipment that tons of people have used to help improve their lower back health. Now, with that being said, I would not recommend, if you have any sort of low back pain, jumping on this as your very first go-to to start working on your back. There are 1,000 ways that you can be having low back pain, and so this is where I would recommend working with a professional in some way, shape, or form to differentially diagnose, figure out what the hell is going on, so that we do not exacerbate any problems that are underlying. I also say that because the pump that we get, the muscular activation that we get off of this machine, for many people can feel like low back pain. One, because we might be moving through ranges of motion in an isolated movement that we've not done before, and that novelty, that newness, can trigger our brains to be defensive and throw you a pain signal. But if nothing is going wrong and maybe we've achieved these ranges of motion, the pump itself, the expansion of that tissue, because of the density of the lumbopelvic fascia, there's not a lot of expansion space, and so that pump underneath pressing into that lumbopelvic fascia will be perceived pressure, can give us pain sensations. I remember one of the very first big workouts that I did on this. I did a 5x10 strength workout on this. On my drive home, I thought I broke my spine because I was getting pain referrals from my glutes coming all the way down into my legs. I thought I had really fucked myself up. But the next day. Totally fine, no discomfort, no nothing like that. I don't want you having to go to the emergency room or going and seeing a professional when the reality is it's just a McNasty low back pump and we're totally fine. So that is the reverse hyper. Again, we have them at our offices, and I know a lot of you have these at home. So I hope that this was helpful, informational. If you learned something, love to hear it from you down in the comments. If you have more questions, go ahead and shoot those to us as well. More than happy to help out and give some recommendations on improving your low back health. If you found this video helpful as well, go ahead and subscribe. That really helps us provide better content for you and get this information out to the people that want it. But with that, we'll see you in the next one, guys, and happy lifting.